Hello everyone and welcome to the 8th episode of Wishing Stars and Mickey Bars. Today we're going to be discussing running at Walt Disney World. And I know running on vacation doesn't sound super exciting, but I promise these are. So we're going to talk about the RunDisney Race Weekends and the fun runs at the Walt Disney World Resorts. So stay tuned.
We are Robert and Alyssa, also known as Here with the Ears. We lived the entire year of 2019 in the Walt Disney World Resorts, sharing our experiences and adventures on social media and YouTube. Wishing Stars and Mickey Bars is our weekly show where we share tips, stories, and more about our year living in the resorts and our continued Disney adventures. This week, I'm very excited because we're going to be talking about running at Walt Disney World. Now, let me preface this before we even get into this. I am not a runner. I don't claim to be a runner. I don't run for fun necessarily. Like, I don't wake up at 4 a.m. going, I can't wait to go for a 5-mile run today. That's not me.
We also don't wake up at 4 a.m.
That's also true. I don't do that either. But I do wake up at 4 a.m., actually earlier, for RunDisney races. Last year, in 2019, for the first time, we tried the RunDisney races. And I didn't really know what to expect. I kind of thought it was going to be, one of those things where it's all these fitness buffs and they're all running this race and I'm this slowpoke in the back, like dragging along, barely making it. But it wasn't. There were really people of all skill levels and all walks of life that were there. And it was really cool, like, to see the different people coming in and some running really fast. Obviously, the elite runners up in the first corral. And then some of them who were just like me, who were kind of half walking, half running, just trying to not die on the way there. Yeah. It was really fun to see. And I will say the one time I was running, it was actually a fun run. And there was a guy who passed me who had prosthetic legs. And at that point I realized, okay, yeah, I'm totally finishing this thing. And I'm going to run because I'm not going to let someone who has prosthetic legs pass me. Like, he has more determination and no, I'm gonna make sure I finish this thing. So it was encouraging to me to see people like that running. It was like, okay, I guess I probably should be able to do this because I'm, under 30 and fairly physical fit, But,
Yep, and he was a sweetheart. We got to talk to him afterwards. He had a wonderful story. Awesome. So that was his first run he was doing, and so he was so excited. We just got to talk to him, and that's part of the beauty of running at Walt Disney World, whether it's a fun run or the RunDisney Race Weekends, is just the camaraderie, the community, the excitement. There are so many amazing stories, and if you just stop and talk to several people, you'll be amazed the reasons they're running, why they're there. So it's just so exciting. The atmosphere is just wonderful.
It really is exciting.
So we loved them.
And I will say, we've mentioned a couple different things now. We've mentioned the RunDisney Race Weekends, and we've mentioned the fun runs. Now, those two are actually not related in any way, as of right now at least. So we should probably talk about a little bit and explain what those things are. So I'll let you talk about the fun runs, then I'll take the RunDisney stuff.
So the fun runs at the Walt Disney World Resorts are my favorites. As he mentioned, we are not runners. I'm not a runner at all. I used to love running. Now I don't as much. I enjoy just the journey. I like to walk. I like to take pictures, enjoy the scenery. So that's more my speed, which is part of the reason I like the fun runs so much. Even though they're called fun runs, you do not have to run, which is wonderful for me because he'll take off, he'll run. Yeah. I take pictures, video. I just enjoy the morning. The fun runs are events that they have at the Walt Disney World Resorts. Not all of them, but most of them now have them.
A lot of them have them. Yeah.
It started at Port Orleans French Quarter. They were the first ones to get this kick-started a few years ago. And each run is $15 per person, but you also get something at the end. So it's not just you're paying for the run, you're also paying for something at the end, whether it's a pin or a treat or, in French Quarter's case, Mickey beignets.
The Mickey beignets. I will say the first thing that got me interested in the fun runs was when someone said, hey, if you go to French Quarter, they have this race in the morning, and you don't have to run, but you can. And at the end, they give you a certificate for an order of Mickey beignets. And I was like, sign me up for that. Like, I need that. And yes, it's more expensive than just buying the Mickey beignets. But if I can run knowing I'm going to get beignets at the end, I'm a lot more likely to run. So that one was kind of what got me interested in the whole fun run thing to begin with.
So all of them do have a prize. So every single resort has a prize who has a fun run. They are currently not doing them right now, but we are looking forward to them coming back, hopefully in the near future.
Have to assume when the RunDisney races in person resume. Probably around that time they'll start the fun runs at the resort again. It's just hard to physically distance whenever you're running a race because you're all kind of together on the same track. But they are really amazing, and I'm really looking forward to when they come back.
Oh, totally. So these events are like actual races. They do have a start and a finish line. There are cast members all along the way cheering you on. It's so much fun. We have talked to so many guests. But the great thing about these is you don't have to be a guest at the resort. Anyone can participate. Anyone can come and enjoy them. Whether you're staying on property at Walt Disney World or you're just a local who wants to come, everyone's welcome. Everyone can enjoy them. So we have had so many wonderful conversations with other guests and everyone enjoying them. But they're each $15, and Old Key West is the only one that does any type of discount for that. And they do a DVC discount there. So we have definitely taken advantage of that.
Yeah, and I will say the races for the fun runs are a lot shorter than a typical Run Disney race. The Run Disney Weekends, the shortest race they offer is a 5K. The longest fun run, I believe, is a 3K with the exception of Fort Wilderness, which is only run on holidays and certain holidays like Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas. So the longest one is typically 3K, and some of them are as short as a 1.2 miles, I want to say, is the shortest one. But we have all the information on all the fun runs whenever they do return on our website. We'll leave a link to that in the description here. But we thoroughly enjoyed every single one of them. And there is one more fun run that was actually scheduled to start basically the week that everything shut down. So they did not start their very first fun run. We were hoping to be there for the inaugural run, and then everything shut down. So when they do come back, we're hoping that they still bring back their run, because we got to be a part, or I got to be a part, I guess, of the very first fun run at Riviera Resort, and that was kind of really cool to be like the first people to get the prize and everything. So.
And it actually poured rain. He ran in the rain with two other ladies.
Yep, and they said we were going to call it, but there were 3 people there waiting to run, so we ran, and they gave us the prize, and I was very happy about that. So.
Yep, and it worked out that I was not there because all 3 of them actually ran, so I would have walked in the rain by myself. So, very glad I stayed inside for that one.
Yeah. So, the Run Disney Race Weekends are entirely different than the fun runs. The fun runs are actually organized by each individual resort that has it. Run Disney is a separate department of Disney that actually organizes real races at Walt Disney World. And I say real races. These are like legitimate races. They shut down the streets. You run through the parks. Depending on which race it is, you may run through Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom or Epcot, or all 4, depending on, which weekend it is. There are currently 4 different race weekends that Run Disney has, starting in January with the official marathon weekend. This is the only full marathon that they run at Walt Disney World. It has a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon. That one is what I would say is for the real runners. Like if you're a serious runner, that's probably the one you're going to be most interested in. It is still very much Disney, and we'll get into a few of the things they use to kind of Disney-fy the races in a few minutes. But the marathon weekend is definitely a lot more serious runners. You can still come if you're not a serious runner like me. You can still run it at like a 12 or 13 or 14 minute mile, or even 16 minute mile, because that is what the limit is. But I feel like it's more of like the serious runners that show up for marathon weekend. The next one is in February every year. This was actually the first one that we did. Yay! And the only half marathon that you've done. We did the Princess Weekend. So Princess Weekend, they have a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon, which is actually the format they use for all the other weekends besides Marathon Weekend. Friday will be a 5K, Saturday will be a 10K, and Sunday will be the half marathon. We attempted the half marathon together. We did both finish, and I did not run ahead. I stayed with her on that one because it was our first one. We did it. We may have dragged each other across the finish line, but we did. And
I was not sure I was going to make that one, but I was very proud of myself.
Fun. It was very encouraging to see that we could do a half marathon. It was really cool because you run through the castle. Now, granted, you're surrounded by a bunch of other people running through the castle, and everyone wants to go in front of the castle and get their picture, like jumping in the air and stuff. So there was a little bit of a crowd going on, but it was a pretty cool feeling running up Main Street, running through the castle, coming out and around down through Frontierland. Like it was a really cool experience. So I think running through Magic Kingdom was my favorite part of that weekend.
Especially that early in the morning. It was just beautiful with the sun rising and all those people, all the excitement.
And all the spectators lining Main Street. That was cool, which that's a whole other thing about the races too, is the spectators. And then the next weekend is in April. It is my favorite. It is Star Wars Race Weekend. It was actually the first one that was canceled this year in 2020 I'm still a little bit bitter about that, but it's okay. I understand why they had to do it. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I ran every race last year, 2019, of the Star Wars Race Weekend. I did the Kessel Run Challenge, and that includes the 10K and the half marathon, and also a virtual half marathon that you have to run on your own before race weekend. So I did that one, and I threw in the 5K too, which you did with me. And
yeah, so we did do that one. That one actually got rained out. And so that was a very exciting experience for us.
It did happen. It didn't get canceled, but we had to duck for shelter because there was a massive thunderstorm, and they put us all into Epcot and like stuck us in buildings. And eventually, like an hour later, we finally got to run.
In the rain.
It wasn't really running. It was more like everyone carefully jogged, sort of, because it's very, very, very wet and slippery. So we all kind of walked a 5K that morning. It was an interesting race.
It was fun, though. I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very fun, and I was very thankful that I had other things like shoes and stuff I could wear the next day because everything was completely soaked. It was just useless. But I really enjoy Star Wars Weekend, not just because of the Star Wars theme. I enjoy the costumes. And yes, everyone dresses up for Princess Weekend and even Marathon Weekend and even Wine and Dine in November. But the Star Wars costumes, I feel like, are some of the most impressive.
They're epic.
People find some of the most obscure Star Wars characters and dress up as them, or Disney bound as them, or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes it's full-on costumes too, which is kind of crazy. But I thoroughly enjoy just seeing all the costumes. And I was really looking forward to this year's Star Wars Weekend because The Mandalorian came out in October, which means there hasn't been a Star Wars race since The Mandalorian was released. I have a feeling we would have seen a lot more of that guy up there if we'd had a race weekend, but I'm sure it'll happen next April, so that's okay. And then the final race weekend is in November because you basically don't want to be running anything longer than a 5K in Florida between April and November because it is hot. And the final race weekend is the Wine and Dine. It is coordinated with the Food and Wine Festival. That was kind of where it got its start. It used to be a night race, and now it's a day race like all the rest of them. It's got a food and wine theme. At least it has had a food and wine theme the last several years. But 2020 is the first year they've given it a Disney character theme besides like food and Mickey and stuff like that. This year, they gave it a villains theme, which I was super pumped to hear about. I was so ready for that. Unfortunately, with everything going on, with all the pandemic and the shutdowns and everything, they decided they cannot run those races in person. However, they are doing virtual races for all of those races this time, which they didn't do for Star Wars. So I'm very happy about that. I did sign up for all the virtual races for Wine and Dine. I'm excited about the medals that look amazing. They always do a great job on the medals. So I'm really excited about running those races with some friends and getting those medals and earning those medals, which will be really cool. So,
and I will be cheering them on from the sidelines because I'm part of the cheer squad. So that was something I did last year. If you do not want to run, but you have someone you care about that is running and you want to be there and cheer them on, they actually have what they call the cheer squad. And that was a lot of fun. They gave us a little bell and a blanket. And so we got to be there at the beginning, at the start line. Then at the finish line, we had our own section where we could sit in the bleachers and cheer right at the finish line. And they actually had drinks and snacks for us too, which was really nice. So yes, you can just be there and for free if you'd like, or you can pay for the package. And so that's what we did for one of them. And so I cheered him on at the end.
Yeah, and you weren't the only one cheering us on. Like the cheer squad at the finish line was really cool, and I'm really glad she did it. But all throughout the entire racetrack, and this is from when you're in the Princess Weekend with me, and this is from the Star Wars Weekend, this is all of them, people set up everywhere. Anywhere you can like imagine, off the side of the road, or at the entrance to the park, or in the park at Magic Kingdom. And they have signs. People come up with the funniest signs. I think one of my favorite things, besides the characters, about the race weekends is reading all of the spectator signs along the path. Some of them are really funny. Some of them, you run past it and read it, and then you get the joke as you're already past it, and you start laughing. You're like, hey, that was actually really good. And it's too late now. They're gone. But I really enjoyed seeing all the spectators. It was cool having them cheer you on and stuff. I just enjoyed laughing at all the funny signs, though.
And it was really encouraging. As funny as that sounds to have random strangers cheer for you, it really lifts your spirits, especially when you're getting to that halfway point in the half marathon. You're starting to tire out. And there are these little kids that are just there. They don't know you, but they're so excited for you. And they just cheer you on. And you've got these adults with signs. And they're like, you can do it. That's such a big deal. And again, with that Disney community and that camaraderie, it's so wonderful. And so we love that so much. And it really helped during that half marathon.
Yeah, the half marathon starts to drag a little bit. For me, my point is about mile 9 is when I make it past the halfway point, but when I hit about mile 9 is when it really usually hits me. And seeing the few spectators they had around there, and for the Star Wars weekend, some of the 501st came out, which is basically an unofficial group of Star Wars lovers who have incredible costumes they've built. That's the best way I could describe it, I guess. They do a lot of amazing things. You can check out their website, and they've got amazing stuff they do with children's hospitals and stuff like that. But a ton of them came out for race weekend and just randomly scattered around different points at the beginning of the race, towards the end of the race, some different places in the middle. Yeah. And you get to see some really cool costumes. I saw one guy dressed up as Emperor Palpatine. Phenomenal job with like the makeup and everything on his face. It looked really realistic. It was really well done. So there were quite a few of those that I was like, okay, this is pretty cool to have not just random people cheering you on, random Star Wars characters cheering you on. So that was fun.
In every single Run Disney race, there are characters that you never get to see anywhere else. So it's so much fun to go along, and they do have lines. You can take pictures with them, or you can just wave to them as you run by. I know we have seen villains, we have seen fairies, we have seen princesses, as he mentioned, Star Wars.
Yeah, some really cool Star Wars characters.
Really cool characters. I think my favorite was the Ewok.
The Ewoks were adorable.
He was so cute.
Yeah, that was pretty adorable. It wasn't my favorite, but I know when we get into the questions, which actually I think now's probably a good time to get into those. The first question we had was, what was your favorite character that you've met during one of the Run Disney races? Now, we should say we've only done a few. I've only done Star Wars Weekend and the Princess Half, and you've only done the Princess Half and the 5K, which had no characters because of the rain. Yeah. So, what was your favorite character that you've met?
I'm a little biased on this one because I love Tinkerbell anyway, so getting to see her while you're running and trying to make it through a race was a big deal. But they didn't just have Tinkerbell. They had Tinkerbell, her friend Rosetta, and her guy friend Terrence, which was really fun. It was really cool. I used to love it when they would have Tinkerbell with her friends in the park, and since they don't do that anymore, that always made me sad because I liked seeing them. I have seen all of the movies. I know who they all are, so I do miss seeing her friends, so that was a big deal for me. I did stop and take pictures with her because I wanted to have pictures.
We waited in the line for that one because it was worth it. I waited in very few lines at the Star Wars race weekends because I was just so set on making sure I finished the race. I was like, okay, I will wait in a couple lines. So like the Ewok line was short, so I waited in that one. I already had a picture with Darth Maul from another event, so I didn't wait for Darth Maul, and Chewbacca, same thing. But I did wait in line for one of the characters, which was almost at the end of the race. They had Ezra and Sabine from Star Wars Rebels, which was my favorite that I've met. Now, there were a few others that I really enjoyed seeing, but I think my favorite that I actually went and waited on a picture, like, it was worth waiting for a picture for me, it had to be Ezra and Sabine.
On those same lines, what is your favorite fun run at the Disney resorts?
My favorite resort fun run, I would probably say Boardwalk. It's very similar to Yacht and Beach. They have almost the same track because they run around Crescent Lake. But I would say Boardwalk because I love the pin that you get as a prize. It's a really cool pin with a horse that looks like it's like moving. It's really fun. It's on a spring. And you also get a Goofy Glacier after you run. So it's like a slushie.
I think you're biased on that one because it's called like, Goofy.
I get a Goofy treat, and it's a slushie, which is just pure sugar, which is awesome. And I really enjoyed the run because Crescent Lake in the morning is beautiful, and also in the evening. Sunrise, sunset, either one. It's beautiful out there, and I love that little track and running out there. So I would say Boardwalk is probably my favorite fun run. If they weren't doing it, I would go to Yacht and Beach and do theirs because it is basically the same loop.
And they have great prizes at that one too.
Yes, they do.
So loved that goodie bag. That was amazing. My personal favorite, I honestly can't just choose one because I really do love the fun runs. I really enjoy them. I would just do them constantly if I could. But I really loved Old Key West. That is such a pretty resort anyway, but especially in the morning when it's quiet, the sun's rising. I really enjoyed how peaceful that one was. And again, I didn't run, so that's part of it. I got to enjoy the peacefulness around me. But I also loved Coronado. Again, you have a lake there that you're kind of running around. So you get that really pretty, peaceful morning with the water. And I love the prize there. So that's another part of it.
Yeah, well, it's food. I mean, anytime I have food for a prize, it's kind of like the one at French Quarter. I can't knock the one at French Quarter because you get beignets. And it's a really pretty run around Riverside and French Quarter. But I mean, beignets.
Can't beat beignets.
Beignets is really... It will always be okay for me to run the French Quarter race because I get beignets at the end. Another question we had related to the fun runs is, what do you think about the fun runs for families? If you have kids, should they run them with you? Is it okay for kids to run them? How does that work?
We've actually seen so many families run the fun runs with us. A lot of times the kids actually run faster than I do. I don't run at all, and they go flying past me. So yes, I think the fun runs are great for any age. Again, there's a prize at the end, so there's something the kids can look forward to, and adults can enjoy it as well. It is a beautiful time in the morning. The cast members are so much fun. They are so sweet. They're so exciting. They really build this up. It's a big deal. And so the kids love it because they're waving, they're cheering. It's so much fun. And again, at the end, they either get a little treat or a pin. They get something to take home that shows what they did. So it's a great memory for families. And really, it's good for any age, for anyone to enjoy because, again, you don't have to run.
And it's not that long either. A lot of them are only just over a mile or maybe a mile and a half. So it's really not that long. Even if you walk it, it takes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes?
Yeah.
So it's really something that I think families can do together. And if your kids like running, of course, that's a great option for them too, because there's the ability to run if they want to.
Get all that energy out.
Yeah.
And related to the RunDisney Race Weekends, should you stay on property for those race weekends?
Ooh, that is a really interesting question because last year we were obviously on property for all the race weekends. But this year I was planning to run Star Wars without a resort reservation. I actually wanted to see what's the difference in no resort reservation versus resort reservation. Well, I will say, having been on property for the races we ran, it was really convenient for going to the race. Buses start running at 3 a.m. or 3:30 or a little earlier, a little later, depending on the weekend and what the race is and everything. But very early, 3 o'clock in the morning is basically when you're going to get out. That's really early. But it's really early getting on a bus that someone else drives to exactly where you need to go, and you get off the bus and you walk over to the corral area and you're set. If you drive, you have to get up and drive yourself at 3 a.m. and wait in line outside to get into the parking lot and then go find where to park your car and then walk up to the starting line. So I don't know that I would prefer to stay off property. I was going to try it just to see, and I probably will for one of the races next year. But I really like the convenience of just getting on a bus and letting someone else deal with all of that, all the traffic and everything else. And then when you leave the race, there will be a line for the buses. There always is. But it moves pretty quickly. They're pretty good about getting buses in and out of there. If you have a car, though, you can walk straight to your car and leave. Like everybody else who has a car. And you're waiting in line to leave. So I don't know. I can't say definitively from experience if you should or shouldn't stay on property. But I will say I very much enjoyed being on property for the races I did run, because of the convenience of just letting someone else deal with all of that driving and stuff. Also, if we're off property and you wanted to come and cheer me on, you have to get up at 3 a.m. and come with me to the starting line.
So we actually rode different buses in when he was doing the races because he needed to be there earlier than I did. So he headed in on one bus and I went in 30 minutes to an hour later. So that was really convenient for us. And then honestly, going back after I did that half marathon, I wouldn't have been able to drive. My legs were complete jello. I literally collapsed in the very front seat of the bus. I still remember we had really nice buses with really comfy seats, and I just about collapsed in the seat. The driver laughed. He thought it was hilarious. I told him I wasn't going to make it off the bus so he could just keep driving with me in it. But we had a really nice time, but I really couldn't have driven after that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of leg work when you're doing a half marathon, and I didn't want to think about driving afterwards. I will do it at some point just to experience it and see what I think, but I have a pretty strong suspicion that I'm going to like being on property more just because I don't want to deal with it. Unless you're driving. If you want to drive after I run, then that's fine. It's totally different. If you have a chauffeur, then, Another question we got about the RunDisney Race Weekends quite a few times was, what in the world are these balloon ladies that I keep hearing about? And I understand the confusion because, believe it or not, they're not ladies made out of balloons.
They're also not clowns. So
no, not clowns either.
Solve that real fast. No. They are not clowns. No, these are amazing people who actually walk/run, depending on what they need, an exact 16-minute mile, because that is what Disney allows for you to do the races. After that, if you end up behind these ladies, you'll probably get swept off the course. So they hold balloons so you can see them. And if you're near them, you have to stay in front of them in order to maintain that 16-minute mile. So they are complete volunteers. They're just people who love to run. But they definitely make it exciting, make it fun, and kind of give you that, hey, here's where they are. Just make sure you stay in front of us and you're set. So that's definitely kind of the make sure you stay in front of the balloon ladies and you're all good. You'll make it till the end.
Yeah, you don't need to be scared of the balloon ladies. They're not the ones that sweep you or anything like that. But it is a nice reminder of like, hey, you might want to pick up the pace just a little bit, because once you fall behind pace, you are eligible to be swept at any point. And with Run Disney races, it doesn't matter if you get swept. You obviously don't get to finish the course. You do still get your medal. Yeah. However, if you're doing one of the challenges, like I did with the Kessel Run Challenge, where you have more than one race involved, you'll get your medal for that individual race, but you won't win your challenge medal. So if I got swept off the half marathon course, I would get my half marathon medal, but I would not receive the Kessel Run Challenge medal. So it's really important if you're going for one of the challenges that you don't get swept. And honestly, if you're running and spending the money to run the race, you don't want to get swept anyway. So keep an eye out for the ladies with the balloons. They're super amazing humans, and they just are really trying to help people by keeping that pace mile and having the balloons to kind of let you know what's going on. Just try and stay in front of them and you'll be okay. That
was honestly my number one goal when I did the half marathon with the princess race. I just wanted to stay in front of the balloon ladies, and I don't even think I saw them. So I was so proud of that.
And to be honest, with a 16-minute pace mile, that starts after the last people cross the start line. The balloon ladies cross the start line. So if that's the case, if you started, say, 10 minutes ahead of them, well, you got 10 minutes you got to fall behind at a 16-minute mile before you're even at the balloon ladies. So really, unless you're starting in the very, very back of the last corral, you've got a little more wiggle room there, which works out really well if you are running close to that 15, 16-minute mile, because you have to take time for bathroom breaks, you have to take time for character stops. It gives you a little bit of a buffer, but if you see them, just pick up the pace a little bit.
And our final question for this episode, which are you looking forward to more? The Run Disney races or the fun runs returning?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I do love both of them. I enjoy the fun runs. I think selfishly, I'm looking forward most to the Run Disney races coming back. I absolutely love the electricity that's in the air with the Run Disney weekends. I don't love getting up at 2 a.m. and then running out to catch a bus at 3 a.m. and all that. I don't love all that. But I do love all the feeling that comes with it, all the adrenaline, the feeling of accomplishment after finishing a half marathon, especially if you're doing a challenge where it's back-to-back races. All of that I love so much. And so selfishly, I think I'm most looking forward to the Run Disney races coming back. However, I also am very much looking forward to fun runs coming back, because we could do a lot more fun runs than we can Run Disney races.
They're a lot cheaper.
They're a lot cheaper, and there's only 4 Run Disney weekends. And honestly, the registration is really hard to get for some of the weekends, depending on which ones you're registering for. So I really think that the fun runs, I'm really hoping that they come back first, because I'd like to start doing some of them again. But I'm selfishly very much looking forward to the Run Disney races.
I'm very much looking forward to the fun runs coming back, of course, because they don't take a lot of your day. They're like 20 minutes, and you get something to take with you. Of course, you get medals for the Run Disney races. You get to take those with you. I enjoyed them. Like you said, they're so exciting. That feeling of accomplishment is huge, but I'm not a morning person, so those super early mornings were really rough for me. I just enjoy the fun runs, how simple they are, exciting, and I do get something. I get a little pin at the end, so I'm perfectly fine with that.
I love pins too. I love pins, but I also buy pins at Run Disney Race Weekends. So, I mean, I get pins in addition to all my medals, but I spend a lot more on my pins at the Run Disney Race Weekend than you do on your fun runs.
That's true.
So they become very expensive weekends, especially if you're into merchandise of any kind, like hats and shirts, and we won't think about that too much. But I did just register for the Star Wars races in 2021. Fingers crossed those are going to happen in real life, not virtual. So I'm really looking forward to those. I've just also registered for the virtual Wine and Dine runs. So Run Disney has taken a lot of our money lately, and I'm kind of glad that the virtual Wine and Dine is going on, because if it's virtual, there won't be an expo where I can go and look at all the merchandise and want to buy it. So that's probably for the best. That'll save us a lot of money that way.
Yeah, and the fun runs, again, are much cheaper, so I can do a bunch of those for what it costs for one of yours.
You could do several fun runs for the cost of just a 5K, not counting all the merch.
That is so true.
So, yeah, fun runs are a lot cheaper, but I think Run Disney weekends are worth it.
We hope you enjoyed that episode, and it helped answer some of your questions about the Run Disney Race Weekends as well as the fun runs at the Walt Disney World Resorts. We enjoy both. They're a huge deal for us, so we hope we helped you all a little bit, and maybe you'll try that on your next vacation.
And if you decide to do one of the Run Disney races, let me know. Maybe we'll meet up at Race Weekend and maybe run together, or say hi at least as you run past me, because I'm slow.
On our next episode, we'll be discussing what it's like to visit Walt Disney World right now. On Tuesday, on our social media accounts at Here With The Ears, Facebook and Instagram, we will ask what questions you have about visiting Walt Disney World. We've been getting a lot of questions about this, different things. So we want to address this and answer any questions we can. Be sure to head there on Tuesday to have your questions answered. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time,
We're here with the ears.